Escalation certainly factored into our thinking on this MiG-29 proposal. And again, I want to be careful here that we're not getting into intelligence assessments about potential outcomes. Russia is a nuclear power. There's no question about that. And nobody stands to gain if this conflict, which is already so deadly, gets even more deadly because of the potential for a broader, deeper, wider, and non-conventional conflict. So we're certainly mindful of that threat. And as I said at the outset, we want to make sure that whatever decisions we make, whatever support we give, whatever leadership we show, it is not in a way that makes the conflict escalatory.
Related to that, has the Pentagon noticed any changes to Russia's nuclear posture, or have any changes been made to the U.S. Deterrent posture in the days since Putin announced his own change?
I would answer the question the same way I've been doing it, Tara, without getting into specifics. I can assure you that we are comfortable with our strategic deterrent posture as it is. And I just leave there. Sylvie.
Hello, John. To go back to the Patriots, is Poland the only NATO country that has requested Patriots? I could ask, do you plan to deploy Patriots everywhere in the region, anywhere else in the region?
I'm not aware of any other requests for Patriot missile batteries, and so I have no plans or no future redeployments to speak to today, Sylvie.
Now, you've clarified the Pentagon's position on the jet transfers, excuse me, but it was a sharp contrast from what Secretary Blinken said over the weekend about giving the green light for those transfers. Are the Pentagon and the State Department currently on the same page when it comes to the situation in Russia and Ukraine?
Yeah, absolutely we are. I mean, you're talking about comments that were made over the course of last weekend when this was a nascent idea. And we were absorbing that idea, and we were talking about it, and we did. Secretary Blinken was 100% right that first of all, it wasn't our place to tell Poland what to do or not to do. And that was the main point that he was trying to make. But he also indicated accurately that we were having an interagency discussion inside the administration about this idea. We have had those discussions. The Poles put out a statement last night about this transferring him to U.S. custody. We talked about that, and again, I came out here today to read out to you where we ended up landing on that.
If you have time for one more real quick, we've heard a lot about the help given to the Ukrainians, but is the Pentagon monitoring actors that could be assisting the Russians right now?
Monitoring actors?
Whether it be China, Iran, other countries that could be working with Russia while they're now viewed as a pariah on the world stage.
Look, I'm not going to talk about intelligence issues here. We're obviously scanning the threat landscape as broadly and as deeply as we can, and certainly we have taken note that the Chinese, for instance, have at the very least provided a tacit level of approval for what Russia has done, even to the point of blaming the United States for this war, incredibly. And again, we're constantly looking at the threat landscape, and I don't really have anything more to add on that. Janie.
Thank you, John. I have two questions. First question is, Russia has designated South Korea and the United States, its allies, as non-friendly nations. And Putin's retaliation against South Korea has already begun. What is your comment on Russia's action on this?
I think our actions speak louder than any comment or words I could offer here today, Janie. We continue to look for ways to support Ukraine in their defense. We're grateful that the South Koreans, our allies, have also levied sanctions and being willing to offer support. I think that's indicative of our close friendship and partnership, but also more indicative of the South Korean government and their concerns about what Russia is doing.
Secondly, yesterday at the U.S. congressional hearing, U.S. Strategic Commander General Richard said,
Admiral Richards.
yeah, Admiral, I'm sorry. North Korea's
Did I get that right?
Thank you, good. North Korea's ICBM nuclear tests are likely to increase in the future. What strategy does the U.S. have in the response to North Korea's escalate tensions in Korean Peninsula?
Look, Jenny, I would point you to what Indo-PACOM just put out earlier this morning. We've made clear our concern over the significant increase in DPRK missile testing activity, which we continue to believe undermines peace and security and is destabilizing the region, as well as the international community. So in light of that, as we've noted earlier this week, U.S. Indo-Pacific Command ordered intensified intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance collection activities in the LOC, as well as enhanced readiness among our ballistic missile defense forces in the region. So again, I think in our case here, actions are speaking louder than words. We have made clear what our concerns are, and we're acting on those concerns.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mike?
John, the Defense Department was tasked pretty much on the fly with finding billets for thousands of refugees after the fall of Afghanistan. Is the Pentagon trying to sort of get ahead of this get ahead of this to prepare for if you have to do it again with regard to any people from Ukraine?
Well, you know, we're just getting closer to wrapping up Operation Allies Welcome, and we were very proud to be a part of that, this DHS-led mission to provide a safe and secure environment for Afghan evacuees to get on with their new lives here as American citizens, and we're very proud of that. I know of no such similar efforts underway that would utilize Defense Department property or facilities or resources with respect to Ukrainian evacuees. But again, that would be really something better directed to DHS and the State Department. But there's no active efforts right now that for DoD participation in that kind of a move. And look, Mike, I mean, these Ukrainians that have had to flee, I suspect they want to go home, to their home, to a country that's not being bombed and shelled and not invaded by Russia. I would imagine that's what they really want, that they're not looking for new homes. They want to go back to their homes, and they have every right to do that. And what needs to happen is this war needs to end. And Mr. Putin, for all the options he has available to him, he still has the option of diplomacy and ending this war, which he has certainly within his power to do it, so that these 2 million plus people now can go back to their own homes where they obviously belong and want to be. Yeah, in the back there.
Bathy with Marine Corps Times. Thank you. With cold response, the Marine Corps originally planned on sending 5,000 Marines to Norway. That's now been reduced to 3,000. Is that troop reduction in any way connected with what's going on in Ukraine?
I don't think there's any connection to what's going on in Ukraine, but I would refer you to the Marine Corps to speak to how they're resourcing the exercise.
And second question, there's, from what I understand, about 14,000 troops kind of activated or potentially activated to head to Eastern Europe as part of the NATO response.
Correct.
Is there a potential reason why is there no real Marine Corps unit part of that?
I mean, look, we feel to need, we feel to requirement. And right now, the kinds of enablers that have been needed by our NATO allies we've largely come from the Army and the Air Force. There's certainly no overt reason why there hasn't been Marine Corps units put on prepare to deploy or sent over. I wouldn't rule anything in or out going forward. The Secretary has always wanted to keep his options on the table to be able to provide additional force flow, even from the United States. So we'll see where this goes. Yeah. I didn't get anybody on the phone yet. I'm going to be in big trouble here. Paul Shinkman.
Yeah, hi, John. 2 questions, please. One on the Russian convoy and another on Russia's use of conscripted troops. Can you at all quantify the Russian column attempting to advance on Kyiv, like the number of troops or resources within it, and any other resources that Russia has deployed to either get it moving or to prevent those troops from freezing to death? And then secondly, can you comment on, or do you have any insights on the recent developments regarding Russia's use of conscripted troops. Can you confirm that they've recalled some of these forces and that their deployment to the front lines was seemingly the result of some kind of mistake? Thank you.
Okay, a lot there. On the convoy, I don't have a lot of additional context here. Our assessment is this was largely a resupply convoy. Our assessment is still that it remains stalled and is not moving. It has been attacked by Ukrainian armed forces with quite some effect. Our assessment is it has not been able to come to the relief of advance columns that are moving on Kyiv. I have not and will not get into estimating the length of it or how many vehicles or what kind of vehicles are in it. We don't have that level of detail. On conscripts, we certainly, and we've been talking about this for a while. I mean, we certainly have seen that that some of the initial battalion tactical groups that were sent into Ukraine in the early days had conscripts in the force. We've been very careful not to provide a ratio or a number because we don't know. We're not experts on Russian manning and how they organize their units. But we certainly had reliable indicators that a good many of these troops were conscripts. Again, how many we don't know. What their fate is now, we don't know. I saw the statement out of the Kremlin about the offering their numbers. I think I can't remember what it was, several hundred or something like that. I don't think I need to tell any of you this, but I would look upon any piece of data that you get from the Kremlin with great skepticism. Let's see. Tony Capaccio, Bloomberg.
Hi, John. Quick question on Russia's cyber warfare capability in Ukraine. You remember military analysts predicted before the invasion that Russia would unleash the full brunt of its cyber capability to cripple Ukraine's infrastructure. What's DoD's assessment of the extent of that use to date? It doesn't seem extensive.
Yeah, I mean, again, we don't have perfect visibility into everything that the Russians are doing in cyberspace. What we can do, Tony, is speak to outcomes. We believe that that there hasn't been so far devastating cyber effects on Ukraine, although that we have noted cyber attacks, cyber disruptions, websites being taken down, and attempts to limit communications. Certainly we've seen all that. And we would expect that those efforts by the Russians would continue. Again, this is very much a part of their playbook. I would note that the Ukrainians are not neophytes when it comes to cyber operations. We have helped over time, over these many years, to help improve their resiliency in cyberspace, and I think some of that resiliency is on display as well. I mean, that the Russians may not have had devastating effects in cyberspace doesn't just have to be because the Russians decided not to have devastating effects in cyberspace, but rather because perhaps the Ukrainians have improved their ability to be resilient. Phil Stewart, Reuters.
Hey there. Just could you give a little more information about this high-risk assessment? Is there anything that's in the public realm that you could cite that explains why these combat aircraft transfers would be seen as high risk? And you know, is this a new red line by the U.S. government about things that it won't do to support Ukraine, or is this somehow related to the pre-existing red line about, you know, no troops even in airspace? Thanks.
We're not drawing a red line here, Phil. We're giving you an honest assessment of how we came to our conclusions about this particular proposal of MiG-29s that would be transferred to U.S. custody and then given to Ukraine. That's what we're here to talk about. That's the decision that we made. As I answered to court, we're constantly, with every decision we're making, with every piece of material and system that we're providing, we're always going through the calculus of the need and the potential risk of providing that need, and we're going to continue to do that going forward. And I'm not going to get into the specifics, the sausage making of how this particular decision got made. I walked through the three justifications. The Secretary is very comfortable with this decision and with those three justifications, and I'm going to just leave it at that. Oscar from Polish News.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Could you talk a little bit more about why you think that sending these MiGs would be of little use to Ukraine? Is it because of the surface-to-air missile coverage, or and it seems like well, you've been talking about this issue as more of a logistical challenge, but now it seems like it's more of a political military issue. And if I may, also just a quick question about the Patriots. Is that just a temporary deployment? Thank you.
Oscar, I'm going to point you back to my opening statement. I think I answered your question, your first question, pretty well with that opening statement, and I don't know that I can improve upon it, and so trying would probably be folly for me. And as for the Patriot missiles, yes, this is a temporary deployment to Poland, given the circumstances that we're in. These Patriot batteries had already been deployed into Germany, and I suspect at the appropriate time they'll go back there. Okay, I think that's all the time we have for today. Thanks very much, and we'll see you guys later this week. Yeah.